I'm seeing names pop up and it's really wonderful to see you all here. But first, I'd like to introduce my co-host, Kate Berman, who has a few housekeeping items to share.
Thank you, Vicki, and hello, everyone. As Vicki and John have mentioned, thank you so much for taking here with us tonight. And as Vicki mentioned as well, a few housekeeping items before we begin. First, the event is being recorded, so please don't worry if you miss anything. We will send you a link to the recording after the event. We're going to start tonight with a brief overview of homelessness and the people concerned, and then we'll move into our panel discussion. We'll hear from our friend Sarab about our brand new campaign, and then we'll finish off, as John mentioned, with a Q&A session. So please enter any questions you have into the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen, and you have up until 6:40 p.m. to please enter your questions. So that's it. And Vicki, back to you.
Thanks, Kate. So I'll start with a brief overview, as Kate mentioned. As one of LA's largest housing and social services agencies, the People Concerned is on the front lines daily, serving our most vulnerable neighbors. We provide services all across Los Angeles County and have been working in Santa Monica since 1963. We take a holistic approach to addressing people's needs and traumas, and our programs are designed to meet people where they are. We know that everyone's journey and circumstances are different, and our teams walk alongside our program participants as they improve their well-being, find housing, and rebuild their lives. In the nearly 60 years that we've been doing this work, the crisis on our doorstep has undoubtedly evolved, including most recently with the COVID-19 pandemic. We all know that the pandemic did not create the homelessness and housing crisis in Los Angeles, though. Homelessness is a manifestation of broader systemic issues, policy failures, and institutionalized racism, and is also an affordable housing crisis at its core. Complex? Yes. Solvable? Absolutely. We know that homelessness is solvable, and the work our teams do with the incredible support of our community not only gets our neighbors housed, but ensures they remain successful in housing for good.
The solution to homelessness is permanent housing paired with supportive services. What did this mean? Well, it means working with our neighbors to find the right housing option for them, which often is a subsidized apartment, and pairing them with a case manager for supportive services. Once housed, our teams work with participants to help them navigate the new environment, access resources, and integrate into their communities. Practically speaking, this could include anything from budgeting to assistance with securing transportation, to linkages to employments, and even volunteer opportunities. We know that this is the solution to ending homelessness because it works. 92% of the people we support in housing never experience homelessness again. The People Concerned has a goal to house 20,000 people by 2028. We'll accomplish this by continuing to lean into permanent supportive housing and innovative partnerships to produce housing faster and cheaper, like we're doing with our strategic partner, Flyaway Homes. By advancing and advocating for policy that solves the crisis and centers equity, and of course, with the power of our incredible community and the dedication of our heroic staff.
So what you're saying, Kate, is that together we can end homelessness, which coincidentally is the name of our new campaign that our colleague Sarab will discuss a little later. Since the centerpiece of the campaign is a beautiful mural on 7th in Colorado, I'm sure many of you have driven by it. It's quite difficult to miss. It's massive, yellow, and has quite substantial meaning behind it, which you'll learn about a little bit later. We have gathered experts from our Santa Monica programs here this evening to talk about the important work they're doing in the Santa Monica community to solve homelessness. Which brings us to the very best part of our evening together. I'm pleased to introduce you to 3 members of our Santa Monica programs. Lori Bowe, Director of Interim Housing at our Turning Point site in Santa Monica. Kevin Goins, Assistant Director of Safety and Engagement at the Access Center. And Lissy, Program Manager of our Homeless Multidisciplinary Street team in Santa Monica. We thought it would be important to give you all an inside look into our programs. And so as Lissy, Lori, and Kevin will be introducing their program, we'll have a visual representation, a video or photo montage actually playing in the background so that you can get a sense of what the programs are like, the work that the teams do, and of course, hear directly from our wonderful panelists. So with that, I believe that the first speaker is Lori, and Nadine, are we queuing up the video? And for those of you that are just joining us this evening, I'm seeing a few people popping in. So welcome. Thanks for being here. We're just getting into our panel discussion. We're actually going to start with Lissy. So let's go ahead and get that going. Again, Lissy oversees one of our outreach teams in Santa Monica.
Yeah, so thanks, Vicki. I am the program manager for the Homeless Multidisciplinary Street Team. We're an intensive street outreach team, and we have both clinical and non-clinical staff, as well as medical providers and psychiatry who come out with us. The goal of HMST is to engage with clients who are the highest utilizers of emergency services in the city. And so a lot of our folks have been on the street for many years, and our goal is to bring services to them in the hope of reducing emergency services while working towards stability through interim and permanent housing, as well as helping with their medical needs and other goals that they identify. And then there's also C3, which stands for City, County, Community, and that is another outreach team in Santa Monica. You're seeing a lot of pictures of them here, and their approach is to target areas within the city of Santa Monica and do just kind of blanket outreach to whoever they come across. So they come across thousands of people and are doing really hard work. My boss, the director of both programs, likes to describe them as a HMST being man-to-man defense and C3 being a zone defense approach to outreach. And I think together it has been a really effective way to engage our folks on the street. So, and that's our full team together in that picture. I think I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Lissy. That was wonderful. Up next, we can have Lori, go ahead. I know Lori's camera is being a little iffy this evening, but that should be okay as we have a video to show anyway. So Lori and Nadine.
Sure. Good evening, everybody. Hi, my name is Lori Bowe. I am the project director of Turning Point Interim Housing in the city of Santa Monica. That's our building that you're seeing. That's the actual entrance to Turning Point. Turning Point at full capacity is home to 55 clients. We have 29 men and 26 women. We receive our referrals for our beds from Department of Mental Health, LASA, as well as our wonderful outreach teams, and of course our local hospitals. And that's just to name a few referral sources. What you're seeing is what the cubicles actually look like. That is how our clients are housed at Turning Point. We have the men's section, and of course we have the women's section. We have 18 respite beds. The respite referrals come from our local hospitals, St. John's and UCLA Santa Monica. Oh, wow, you really are seeing some wonderful photos of our building. This is our wonderful TV room where the clients can spend time watching videos. And before COVID, we actually had groups in our TV room. And this is our wonderful dining room area where we have our meals, as well as we will host different meetings and groups at the shelter. Clients enter our shelter and they are in a quarantine space for the first 10 days while they're in the shelter. Meals are brought up to them. Okay, you see our wonderful patio. These are great pictures. It's really showing our beautiful property. So excuse me from jumping back and forth. At the completion of the client's 10th day, they move into cubicles where they will stay for the duration of their time at Turning Point. All clients have access to on-site mental health care services, wellness activities, and intensive case management. Our wonderful multidisciplinary staff, they work alongside our clients and staff to develop individualized housing goal plans and to support the clients on their journey to finding permanent housing. And that housing is what is going to fit their best needs. So thank you for having me here and listening to the introduction about Turning Point.
Thank you very much, Lori. We'll move right along to our Access Center and Mr. Kevin Goins.
Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Kevin Goins. I am Assistant Director of Safety and Engagement here at the Access Center. Our service center is really like the point of entry for most of the programs that operate under the People Concerned umbrella. I can just share with you how the pandemic has affected, the people that we serve in Santa Monica and how our program has been impacted. And basically, instead of the clients coming inside, this was pre-COVID, all of our services were provided inside. Clients were allowed to sit inside, get the services that their needs met. Now we decided that, because of COVID, we had to bring the services to the clients. So we would do a lot of things outside of the Access Center, making sure social distancing is taking place, making sure clients are wearing their masks, talking with clients, basically seeing what their needs are, meeting with them one-on-one, accessing, seeing what services that they need. We're also doing temperature checks. We've even bought services like the Narcon services and wellness center. We have a table set up out in the bike rack area where clients can come and visit the table and get their immediate needs met. We've also made announcements, consistently really requesting clients' cooperation when it comes to wearing masks. We've become innovative in making sure that 6 feet of social distancing is being done. We've also had people from the Los Angeles County Department of Health come out and do COVID testing, free COVID testing on Mondays, every Monday from 9 to approximately 12. Our services have actually increased from 150 people normally being seen to up to like 400. And really like a lot of that has to do with just, us remaining open. I really want to stress that a lot of this during COVID, a lot of social service agencies have been closed. The Access Center has remained open because we still realize the real extreme need for the clients to get their services met, like showers, food, clothing, all of those immediate needs that need to be addressed. So we've just been working really hard, here to be innovative, to think out of the box as much as possible and address some of the needs of the clients. And instead of the clients coming in, like I said before, we're bringing the services to them, which is going outside of the gate, making sure clients are adhering to the temperature checks, all of the protocols that we have to do, the PPE specifications when it comes to the temperature check, making sure clients are, signing off on the logbook. We're asking them those COVID questions as they come into the facility. We've also had we've had hand washing stations. We've added porta potties because we realize not all clients are going to be allowed to come in. So we've been doing stuff like that, and it's really helped us a lot. We've also did some cross communication between our programs that we network with. Through the People Concerned, like we stay in contact with C3. We work together in a collaboration also with Turning Point, just to make sure that we're working together to help try to, eradicate this whole homelessness and it's been a lot of pressure on everyone through the COVID, but we're just bringing the services. We're being very innovative and we're just meeting the clients where they're at and assisting the best that we can. And with that, I think we're doing a good job.
You are. Thank you, Kevin. That was wonderful. Everybody tuning in, we're going to have a lovely video play for you while Kevin was speaking, but of course it didn't want to play. So if we can get that working, we'll make sure to show you towards the end of the program tonight. And Kevin, thank you for sharing with us, on how the pandemic has affected the people you're serving in Santa Monica and how your programs have been affected as well and impacted. Lori and Lissy, could you both share as well, how the pandemic has affected the folks you're serving and as well as your program? Lori, why don't you start and then we'll hear from Lissy after.
Okay, no problem. Good evening again. The pandemic, wow. All right, so the pandemic altered the way that we handle our day-to-day shelter business. From seeing volunteers on a regular basis that had intimate relationships with the staff and the clients, providing meal service and facilitating groups, we were having volunteers to facilitate about 25 groups a month that clients could participate in, to clients having no volunteers. Volunteers were unfortunately asked for a while to cease in meal service and in facilitating groups. Then you had to look at clients being used to sit 6 at a table to 2 at a table, having to social distance and having to wear masks. That was extremely challenging. It was a day-to-day, and it continues. It's gotten better, but it does continue daily that we have to remind clients to social distance and to wear masks. This was all new to every last one of us. So we wanted to make sure that we over-communicated with staff and clients. We had coffee and conversation with clients daily. With our staff, we had to have daily shift huddles because things changed by the moment. We talked about all things COVID. It seemed like every conversation we had was about COVID, how to stay safe, how to remain COVID-free. We concentrated on social distancing because that was one of the keys. Social distancing and masks were key to our staff and clients staying COVID-free. Again, it was challenging at first. It was really funny because we ordered some stickers that said, "I'm social distancing," and the clients would wear the stickers and they would show it to their friends if their friends got too close to them. We reiterated the importance of wearing a mask and hand hygiene. We actually had showed the clients the appropriate way to wash their hands and how to wear their mask. We realized that, we needed to have hand sanitizing stations. So they were set up. They were set up on the men's side, the women's side. They were set up as soon as you enter Turning Point, as soon as you enter our dining room and out on our patio. PPE stations, were also set up so clients could have access to masks, to glove, to hand sanitizers. We had to get creative. We would host meals in the parking lot. We would host our house meetings in the parking lot. And that was kind of a treat for the clients. They enjoyed getting some of the sunshine, as well as we were able to host more people in the parking lot because we could spread out more. We laminated puzzle pieces so that we could wipe them off when the clients finished with them. Clients practicing social distancing, they would wear gloves and they were able to play games. And of course, those games were sanitized. So everything we did, we had to think about it. How do you think outside the box? How do you keep the clients entertained? Because they were literally indoors. They did so well. I was so proud of them, and they were told that daily. Think about how we felt. And, I got to go to work every day. So I left my home. They lived at the shelter, so they really couldn't do that. So we met their needs. We went to 7-Eleven and got them coffee and soda. We went to Ralph's and got them their needs. We have a vegan in our shelter, so we made sure that her needs were met as far as her vegan options. Even though the volunteers were no longer at time able to facilitate groups, the staff stepped up and stepped in and started to facilitate groups. We continued, of course, with our Housing First group because housing didn't stop. We never stopped working with our clients on getting them housed. That looked different, and I will speak about that a little later, but that really looked different. I have to be honest, the clients did well. I loved it when they would say, okay, Miss Lori, 6 feet, 6 feet. They thought that was funny, and I did too. Symptomatic clients. So that was another experience. Symptomatic clients were transferred to QI sites. They were actually picked up and they were transferred to a QI site where they remained for anywhere for 10 to 14 days until they were cleared to return to Turning Point by the Department of Health. As Kevin did an amazing job of really telling you, giving you a picture of how it looked, we had to take temperatures. That was something that was new. 3 times a day. Hey, can I get your temperature? Can I get your temperature? Can I get your temperature? Do you have these symptoms? Do you have these symptoms? No, Miss Lori. No, Miss Lori. So it was a different way to look at life at Turning Point, but it was a way that kept everyone safe. We all remained safe. We remained COVID-free. The agency made sure we had everything we need. They made sure we were educated on all things COVID so that we could educate our clients, so that we could educate our staff. Because if we weren't educated, they weren't educated. So it was great. One more thing, we also had biweekly COVID testing, which was performed by Department of Health. And the client looked forward to the testing. They wanted to know if they had COVID. I mean, they would say, when is the next testing? February 9th, 2021, TP hosted a vaccination clinic. Clients and staff were educated by Department of Health first. They were able to answer questions. They were able, to ask questions, and Department of Health answered the questions. They played a game. They did everything they could to make the client comfortable because there were so many rumors about the actual vaccine. So the clients and staff were able to sign up to be vaccinated right then and there. And I was so pleased that we had a huge turnout of clients and staff who signed up and were vaccinated, and they had their second vaccination 2 weeks ago, I believe it was. And they're walking around now like, you know what? I don't need to wear a mask anymore because I'm vaccinated. No, you need to still wear your mask. They knew that. They just felt this, they said they were like in this special club, a vaccinated club. And they would really, I had to have a talk with a couple of them because they like, if you're not vaccinated, you shouldn't be in the shelter. No, that's not true. It's everyone's choice. It's a personal choice. But thanks to the agency for making sure that that was brought to the shelter. The clients were thankful because they said they didn't have to stand in line. They didn't have to fight for a vaccination. They saw it on television where people were standing in line and were turned away. So again, the vaccination made a huge difference with the clients that we serve. So that's my part for now. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Lori. Lissy, can you share?
So I think just kind of piggybacking off of what Lori said, I think education has been a huge part of our role as outreach workers throughout the pandemic. The information about what to do, what's best practice, what do we know about COVID? It has been such a ever-evolving state of affairs for the last year. And in the same way that there are rumors that go around about COVID amongst friends and family, it's the same with our folks on the street. And so when the pandemic hit, a lot of resources were closed down that really impacted our clients, such as like the library, other service centers, like Kevin mentioned that other places closed, but our agency made a really strong effort to remain open and keep serving folks. And so with our clients on outreach, a lot of what we turned to was assessing for symptoms. And if folks were symptomatic, helping connect them with the quarantine and isolation sites where they could stay while they were quarantining, get tested, make sure they had adequate medical care and things like that. We also were working on getting folks into the Project Room Key sites, which was a huge effort, especially like later in the spring into summer when those sites were getting up and running, and we were really trying to fill as many rooms as we could. And so assessing for vulnerability, what folks' underlying health conditions were, seeing if they were eligible for those resources, and really pushing for that. And that's kind of evolved as Project Room Key itself has evolved. A lot of what we did was, and still is, handing out PPE, giving out masks, hand sanitizer, along with education on social distancing and best practices around what to do if they're worried that they, had an exposure incident or things like that. We really upped our game with food resources because that was one of the biggest pieces of feedback that we got. And so, like Kevin said, it was like bringing a lot of things outside and bringing a lot of things to the places where our folks were, because so much has been shut down. And then, I think there's this stigma around the homeless population and this thought that, folks who are homeless were going to be more likely to get COVID. And what the data has shown, and what made sense as we learned more about the virus, is that like the numbers in the homeless population were much lower than that of just the housed population in general. And so a lot of what we did with that information was making sure that we as providers were being safe and being responsible in the care that we were giving to clients by adhering to social distancing ourselves and wearing masks and practicing good hygiene and things like that. So it's been a wild year, but I would say we have really continued to increase and expand our breadth of services for folks on the street, and then working to keep getting them to the access center, keep getting them to shelters, and really keep pushing to get folks housed. We have housed a lot of folks in the last year. So it's been a very hard year for our clients. It's a very hard year for staff, but we just keep showing up, and, we'll keep showing up. So.
Thank you, Lissy, and Kevin and Lori for sharing with us. It's really reassuring to hear how the people concerned staff have gone above and beyond in making sure that service delivery remained as uninterrupted as possible through this pandemic, and really that our program participants are quite resilient too. To switch gears a little bit, earlier we shared that the solution to ending homelessness is permanent supportive housing. Can you tell us, is there a typical formula or path to getting someone housed? What does that journey look like? What are some of the biggest challenges in getting people housed? Lizzie, I know you were just chatting, but I'd love for you to start us off, and then we can hear from Kevin and Lori.
Sure. So I think the biggest barrier that I've seen to getting folks into permanent housing is just a lack of permanent supportive housing in general. And this need to have more availability, so it's not such a scarce resource for folks. When we're working with clients, we will assess for what their needs are and what level of housing is appropriate for them. And often it winds up that when we're working on getting folks into permanent supportive housing, they're competing against each other for openings, and it just becomes this really difficult situation to navigate because it's important for us as service providers to be client-centered and how we're looking at what our clients' needs are and finding an appropriate resource. So that can be really difficult. Often for folks on the street, when we're outreaching them, we will work on getting them into a shelter if they're open to it. And then if they get into a shelter, it can be a really good launching off point for their housing search and to work on their housing application. Some folks don't go that route and they go right from the street into permanent housing. Or if folks want to address substance use, we'll help them get into residential treatment and work towards housing while they're there. So we try and just be flexible and kind of make things happen as quickly as we can, but often there are limitations there to how quickly that can be because of the lack of resources. So, and then I think another barrier as well is that a lot of the clients, especially the clients I work with HMST, have been chronically homeless in Santa Monica for, some of them have, been homeless in Santa Monica for 20 years, and this is their home and this is where their community is. And so trying to work within what is available and what clients feel safe and comfortable with can really be at odds with each other. So I think that's one of the biggest barriers, is just wishing that there was more housing and more supportive housing that, comes with adequate resources for folks to feel like they can transition into housing and feel safe there.
Thank you. Kevin, what about over at the Access Center?
Okay. The road, to getting someone housed is not as typical as a lot of people would think. We do have clients that have a lot of issues with their personal identification, their birth certificates, all of those things like that. So the typical road would be for them to enroll in our case management orientation, at which time we can do an assessment to see if they're document ready. Now, a lot of clients are out on the street. It may seem like it's something simple. Oh, they should have an ID. But a lot of people, they don't have adequate places to keep IDs. They don't have adequate places to keep small things like birth certificates. So our first goal is to make sure that they're document ready. I would say once we do that, then we start to work on a housing plan. We start to make sure that we get all of those documents, that proof of income, proof if they have a medical condition. We start working on those really, really tough things like that, just to make sure that they're document ready to move into shelter or either permanent housing. I just want to say that there's limited housing resources and a lack of shelters in SPA 5, period. That is also an obstacle. For example, LA County has like 7,000 shelter beds for approximately 66,000 people who are out on the streets. That's a big difference, 50% of the clients that come into the ACT Center, they don't have an ID. So we've had a lot of issues with that, making sure that they're document ready. We also have where, some of the social service places like the DMV, the Social Security Office, the Department of Social Services, those places are closed. They were closed during the pandemic. They were offering limited services. Therefore, it was very difficult for us to get clients in to even get their needs met. However, we have been working hard. We've been working with our wellness team, who after they do their case management orientation, they meet with our wellness team. Our wellness team will be able to do an assessment also and assist them with the ID vouchers, assist them with ways on getting their birth certificates. We've become very innovative in making sure that we're addressing their needs. Are they having mental health issues that need to be addressed? So once we get all that taken care of, then we can move forward and make sure that the clients are on the right path and it could start with temporary shelter. It could go into interim housing. It can go into transitional, interim housing, permanent housing. And we try to talk with the clients, let them know to be patient, to really work with their caseworkers. And it's a goal that's working with the caseworkers and the clients. The clients have just as much input into their needs as the caseworkers do. So it's not what we want, it's also what they want, what type of housing. And then we try to meet them halfway, because sometimes their wants are not what we have available. So we just try to meet them where they're at, and continue to work with our clients, really ensuring that, you know, their needs are going to be met when it comes to their IDs, all of that stuff like that. It's very alarming to think that a lot of times clients come into the facility with absolutely no ID. It's just amazing to me, but it is something that we can work on, and it's something that the Access Center has been working on. We're starting to see progress being made. Our wellness team is doing very good. Our caseworkers are working around the clock, and we're just gonna keep on tackling this thing until we get it solved, because the ultimate goal is to house 20,000 people by 2028. And we're gonna keep on working as hard as we can to make that happen. So that's what I could say for that.
Thank you, Kevin. That was wonderful. Lori, if you could share, I'm also the timekeeper of the evening. So if you could share a little bit briefly, we will be able to fit everything in tonight. So Lori, thank you.
Sure. Actually, Kevin and Lissy said it all. It doesn't matter if they're in a shelter, if they're at the Access Center, or if they're on outreach. We are all doing exactly the same thing. You know, you have clients, and when we start talking about housing, when the client first enters the shelter, we bring it up. It may be casually, but you want to mention it. You want to get an idea of what is it that the client is looking for. One of the things that we do at Turning Point is called a housing vision board. So it's a vision board where there's a house in the middle, and then the client works on ways to get towards housing, because we think that if they can see it, if they can visualize it, then they believe it's going to be true. They have been disappointed so much that most of them do not believe that it's going to happen. And you had a lot of clients who entered Turning Point right at COVID time. And prior to COVID, we had vouchers, we had subsidized housing, and they saw some of the people that slept next to them or across from them getting these subsidized housing, working with the housing team, and moving into their own units. And now our conversations have to be different. It's not any longer, you're going to get that voucher after 1 year. Now it's, what can we do? You want to go home? Okay, perfect. Family reunification. You think you need to be in a project base so that you can have case management to help you. Perfect. We have Step Up on 5th. We have Step Up on 2nd. Oh, okay. You want to share housing because you don't want to live by yourself. Perfect. We have shared housing in Hawthorne. So you have to, we've always had to, but more so now, as Kevin said, we have to think outside the box. We will be successful in housing. We will make that goal. It, as Kevin and Lissy said, it has taken staff really to communicate with each other, to pick up the phone and to call Kevin and say, hey, do you guys have any housing leads? How did you house that person that you've been trying to house? What is that lead? Really educating landlords. That's another thing, educating landlords on what it's like to house one of our clients, showing them that they will have a case manager that will follow that client, that will be there in case that landlord has any concerns about the client. So Kevin said it, and I think Lissy said it as well. We still, during the pandemic, we kicked butt. We still housed people. Yes, we did. We went into landlords' units. We took the clients out. We did, again, we practiced social distancing, but that didn't stop us. The pandemic has not and will not stop us. We will meet our goal.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, Lori. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Lizzie. That was really informative. And it sounds like the overarching theme here is that we absolutely need more affordable and supportive housing in our communities. And we also need people like all of you to keep doing the amazing work that actually ensures our neighbors are housed for good. And so with that, we're going to move right along. And I am really, really pleased to have a special guest here tonight, our dear friend, Saurabh Piriyesh, who's going to talk to us about his involvement with our new Together, We Can End Homelessness campaign as a member of the Founders Circle. So with that.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Saurabh. I have kind of been doing a lot of work related to film and ad agencies in the startup world. And I got kind of introduced to the people concerned through my co-founder at Ving. His name is Jeffrey Chernick. I'm good at producing presentations and films and videos that kind of capture the central narrative of an organization or a startup or something like that. And they thought I would be able to help. And so we've created a little task force with Vicky and Noel and Soren and Jeffrey and we're like, okay, how do we sort of create a new initiative where we try and find and inspire young people to participate in this process and get them to, through either volunteering or small donations, kind of recurring monthly donations, participate in sort of tackling this problem. And we started with this feeling of when you walk by someone who's unhoused and you have this feeling that you want to help. And there's always the joke, you like move to LA or New York City and you see someone and like at first you start helping, but a few months in you're like, I can't do this forever. And you sort of give up. And there's this feeling of like, I'm not supposed to give money, you've heard that, or I'm not supposed to give food. And you just sort of, you slowly crush that kind of humanity in you that says, this is not okay. Like we shouldn't live like this. This is not okay as a society. And what we wanted to do is kind of create an inspiration to say, you know what, you can take that feeling, let's take that feeling and aim bigger. Let's say that we don't have to accept this, that this is a solvable problem. This is not just a reality that's just like, oh, you have to have it in every city. It's something that we can take on and really take that kind of young person spirit to say, let's not just like reduce homelessness by 10%. Like, let's not make it just a little bit better. Let's really try and end homelessness. And maybe you can't do it for everywhere in America. Maybe you can't do it for all of California or even all Los Angeles, but you can probably do it in your neighborhood if you participate and you get your friends to participate. And that, with all the other things going on, we can really kind of aim a little bit higher. And so we took that idea and we sort of tried to make like a little video that captured that spirit, that showed what the people concerned about and the work that the people, the caseworkers and everyone else do. So me and my one of my friends, Ben, we sort of followed some of the great people who work at the people concerned through Hollywood. We went to downtown at a few different centers there and Santa Monica, and just kind of tried to capture the reality of what the people concerned does and the people, the actual people who were helping. And so that's sort of where we started. And we wanted to kind of create a campaign around that. And so we got a giant mural painted by Corey Matty in Colorado and 7th in Santa Monica with the hope of repeating that and creating various ones throughout the whole city. And to really kind of inspire people in different neighborhoods to participate. We're in the process of creating really cool QR codes and putting them up around the city so that if you see someone who's homeless and you want to help just by scanning, you can find a way to actually send help to that specific location. And then if you do, we also made a cool landing page, which is thepeopleconcerned.org/together. And if you actually give money, then one of the things we're going to do is we follow up with a short video that's specific to that neighborhood, that has your name in it, that we say, thank you, Vicky, thank you, Kevin, thank you, whoever gave the donation for your help. Because of what you did, we're able to send someone specifically to that neighborhood and actually capture a video of all the various people we got throughout the city helping. This is what your donations do. And so we really wanted to kind of capture that feeling and then pay it off, close the loop. So after you give money, every month we follow up with some sort of kind of video collateral that shows that. And hopefully you share that with your friends and you bring people along. So that's what we set out to do. We're still not all the way there, but we're about to kick off the QR code campaign. We just launched the landing page. We're kicking off an awesome, very high level ad campaign as well to push this on social. And we're excited to see the results of this over the next couple of months. So yeah, that's the overall campaign, and this is the central video. I think, are we showing it now, Vicky, or is this? All right, so let's do this. This is the short 90-second video on that we call Together. Oh, audio.
I'm still not getting audio. I think we might have to stop sharing and reshare the audio box. Clicked.
There are 60,000 people who are homeless in Los Angeles. People, our neighbors, who fell on hard times, lost a job, got sick, are battling physical and mental traumas made worse by living on the street. Our city has left them behind. We can do better. We must do better. People Concern is committed to ending homelessness permanently in Los Angeles. Our dedicated team couples housing with integrated ongoing support. It starts with outreach to build trust, providing access to food, hygiene, clothes, therapy, and career counseling. We then place people in interim housing with the goal of getting everyone not only permanently housed, but given ongoing support with case managers and mental health professionals. That's why 92% of the people we house stay housed. Last year, we offered services to 5,000 people while helping 2,000 people stay permanently housed. With your monthly support, we can help every last person who is still unhoused in Los Angeles. Together, we can end homelessness here, once and for all.
Thank you so much, Saurabh and team, for helping us get this campaign off the ground. If you'd like to learn more, my colleague has linked the site in the chat box below, and you'll also receive it in a follow-up email from us as well. Now, before we wrap up, we've got about 10 minutes left for some questions. Vicky, what do you think?
Let's get into it. Let's get into it. So if our panelists can put their cameras back on, please. And John, please as well. Thank you. Got a full house on the screen. Okay, let's get into it. So I'll start with a question that came in. So no small feat, but John, this one is for you. With red hot housing market, how can we afford homeless housing?
How can we, I'm sorry, how can we do what with homeless housing?
How can we afford homeless?
Oh, how can we afford, I'm sorry.
Yeah, great.
Well, I think that we have been committed at the People Concern to building faster and cheaper. I mean, you know, at its core, affordable housing needs to be scaled up, you know, dramatically. And so we cannot continue to build at the same rate. It can't cost $550,000 a unit and take 3 to 5 years to build one unit of housing. So there a few ways we can do that. We can look at adaptive reuse. We can look at hotel, motel conversion. There's some of that happening now with Project Home Key sites. We can look at work that we're doing with our partner Flyaway Homes and look at modular construction. We can look at private equity financing. There are a lot of things we can do actually to speed up production and to lower the cost per unit and the time of building.
Thank you very much, John. Our next question is for Lissy. Lissy, can you tell us a little bit why is it just not so simple as to connect people experiencing homelessness with their families? So for people that you're meeting on the streets, why is that not always an option for people in your experience?
Yeah, so I think it's a good question, and I wish it was easier. The truth is, so many of our folks who we work with on the street have gone through a lifetime of trauma that often starts at home. There are a myriad of things that could have happened to someone that would make them not want to reach out with their family or not have family to reach out to at all. It's a rare occurrence when we have clients who are interested in connecting with family and the family is interested in connecting with them. And so it's always something that we pursue because when it works out, it is such a wonderful outcome for us as providers and for our clients. If that's the most supportive environment, then we always want to pursue that option. And sometimes it happens and it's really wonderful. But I think at the root of that question is just so many things that can happen between family members over the course of someone's lifetime that might make them feel like it's not safe for them to contact family, or that they don't have that relationship to fall back on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Lissy. That's really, I think, important context, and the traumas that people that we serve endure are really quite significant often. So another question, also Santa Monica centered question. And I think maybe we can start with John, and then if anyone else wants to weigh in on this, but the question reads, what's being done in Santa Monica to ask each homeless person if they want help? Is there help for them? And I think we learned tonight for our programs that there is quite a bit of help for them in Santa Monica, but perhaps you all could weigh in on this.
Well, I think you've heard from my colleagues here that actually that is exactly part of what outreach does. It's part of what happens at the Access Center every single day. And it happens in the interim housing facilities as well, because our work is really about making connections with people and helping them decide, where they want to go in their journey and then walking beside them. But in order to do that, we have to understand what their wants and needs are. So that is really fundamental to the work. I mean, part of building a trusting relationship is really understanding what motivates the people that we're serving.
Thank you, John. Yeah, absolutely. Client-centered all the way, always. Anything to add to that, Lissy or Kevin? If not, I'll move right along.
I would just like to add that,
please.
The whole thing about, building that relationship, building that trust, having an open door, being approachable, greeting people every day when they come to your center, making them feel like they're a part of something. And that just goes a long way with what John is saying, when we want to interact and how we can engage people and ask them what is it that they want. But first, we have to be able to get them to trust us, get them to understand that we're coming from a place of help and that we want to help them along their journey. And so it's just so important that we're building rapport, we're building positive relationships, and we're being non-judgmental when we're interacting with the people that we serve. So I just wanted to add that part.
Thank you, Kevin. Absolutely.
I think that's huge, Kevin. And I think from an outreach perspective, that often means saying hello to someone on the street, offering services, letting them know what you're about a dozen times before they say, okay, where's the access center? And you say, okay, let me walk you over there. Like, it's a long process, but I can tell you that our outreach programs, we're covering ground and we're spreading the word, and it just can take a while to get folks in the door.
Thank you, Lissy. And then a question for all of our panelists, and we have about 3 minutes. I want to be mindful of time. And I will say I've gotten a few questions about volunteers going back on site. So thank you all for your interest in volunteering on site. We're slowly but surely working through that to ensure that all the protocols are still being upheld and everyone is being as safe as possible. We'll be sending a follow-up document after this event the next couple of days, and we'll include information, email address to reach out to us if you'd like to volunteer. And so as new information becomes available, we'll share it with y'all. So just wanted to address that before we jump into our last question, which really is, you know, at all of your programs, if you could have anything in the world for each of your programs, so for the Access Center, outreach, and interim housing, what would it be? And perhaps, John, if you could wave a magic wand, what would we have? So let's get into it. Anyone want to start us off?
Sure. Housing.
Yeah.
Housing. Affordable housing. Landlords who are open and interested in housing our clients. Housing.
Thanks, Laurie. It's a big one.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. If I had a magic wand that could make enough housing appear, that would solve this problem tomorrow.
Thank you, John. Kevin, Lissy?
I would have all of the processes that Kevin talked about for document readiness for housing come to me when I snap my fingers so we could get them into that housing faster.
Wouldn't that be something?
I would just really want them to know that there's hope. You know, hope is such a big thing, you know, and being able to understand that, you know, there is a way out of your current predicament, and that never give up that you can't that you can make it. You know, it's always a hope thing is what I would like to see. And then I think everything else will come from there. But like they said, housing and some of the other things everyone else has mentioned is really paramount, you know, to clients really being successful. But that whole thing to me is just a big deal, you know, is when I see people come in and they just have just a little bit of hope, then they can keep pushing forward with their needs. So it's hope for me.
Thanks, Kevin. Yeah, absolutely. And our participants, as we learned, and our staff are all quite resilient. And I think hope is really, really pervasive in all the work that we do. So, and very important. So thank you all. So with that, I want to thank all of you for being here tonight. I'm going to turn it over to John for closing remarks. Before I do that, just a reminder that we'll be sending out, like I mentioned, a communication with a few different ways to get involved and a recap of this event along with the recording. So again, thank you all, and on to John.
So thank you, Vicki and Kate, for hosting us and doing a great job moderating. Thank you to my colleagues, Lissy, Kevin, and Lori, for the incredible work that you're doing on the front lines every single day. I'm so proud of you, and I know that you get up and do this very difficult work every day for the love of being of service. Want to thank all of you for joining us tonight. You've heard of different ways you can get involved. One way is certainly to join the campaign, and there'll be more information that we'll provide for you around that. Advocacy is really important. Don't be the NIMBY, the not in my backyard, be the YIMBY, the yes in my backyard. We absolutely need to scale the production of affordable and permanent supportive housing across Los Angeles County, and there are lots of efforts underway, spearheaded by everyone in, as well as our organization and our sister organizations working in the field to change policy to create more housing. So With that, I want to thank you again for spending an hour with us tonight, and we look forward to seeing you again. Let me just finally say that on April 8th next week, we're going to do a really interesting panel on the intersection between healthcare and homelessness. That'll be April 8th at noon, so more information will be coming about that. And with that, I will wish you all a good evening and a good rest of your week. Thank you very much. Good night.
Good evening.